Okay, so today we're going to start, we're going to continue on with a systematic approach. We've talked a bit about how you're going to collect data associated with the operations, and some of this data is then going to be incorporated into some of these steps. So the first one we're going to talk about is to define the departments, but you'll also be then looking at defining relationships and also space requirements using the documents you've collected. So what is meant by defining departments is that you need to think about what are all of the areas of the facility that you'll need to plan space for. Now these areas can be things like production control area, maintenance area, it can be a assembly line you need to plan for, you can have an office area, possibly shipping and receiving. All of those can be defined as departments. The way that they're defined really depends on the organization. And so you'll need to be interviewing people and understanding their particular organization. But you also have to think creatively about the various ways that people can define departments. So you don't just take what they say is their definition of department. You'll actually want to think about other ways of defining departments. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, sort of the general aspects associated with defining departments. And mostly we're going to be talking about those that are in a manufacturing facility. So when we talk about planning departments, there's really two types, but planning departments are defined as a group of workstations that function to form workstations that form like functions. So whatever those like functions are, they are grouped together. Now, this is a drawing of a facility we designed in, I think this is Wasco in Santa Maria, and you can see the colors indicate the different departments, and it doesn't really matter what the departments are, but you can see they're a group of workstations, and somehow they're grouped together in like ways. So the first one we're going to look at is product planning. So product planning departments are a group of workstations that process similar products or components. The picture I have right here is an assembly line. This is actually one of the models the students put together of a bottling facility at not at Edna Valley, I can't remember the name of the Corbett Canyon. So at the Corbett Canyon Winery, this is the bottling facility. So you can see it's an assembly line, and that is generally what you think about when you think of a product planning department. The next kind of department is a process department, where you look at a group of workstations containing similar processes. So in a product planning, they're processing similar products. In a process planning, they're doing similar processes. So this would be like grouping all of the lathes together, or all of the mills together, all of the drills together. Those would each be process departments. The processes are the same. Their products are not the same, but the processes are the same. So we're going to look a little bit more at how this works out in sort of on this grid that we have here, where we have the x-axis being variety, so that the types of products that a company processes, if they're low variety or high variety, so they just do one thing or do they do many things. And then the y-axis would be the level of volume, if it's low volume or high volume. So we first look at this product line department. This is low variety products that are high volume, and you can see that that would be something like a assembly line. Again, the picture up there is of an assembly line at Diamond Foods that they were packaging little, I think it was small little snack packs. But you can see that that's the kind of thing that would be determined as a product line department. The next one would be low variety and low volume. This is a fixed material location. And the idea of this is that the item that you're making is in one location, and you bring machinery and people and parts all to that one location. So there's a picture here of a ship, because that's often the typically thought of as a fixed material location. Another thing would be any kind of construction project. So if you're building a building, it's in one location. It used to be that things like airplanes were done that way too, but mostly they're not anymore. They're mostly actually a production line of an airplane. As a side note, if anybody is ever up in the Seattle area, I would definitely take a trip to see the Boeing facility, the 777 or the Dreamliner production facility. It's pretty amazing, and we have a lot of contacts there, so if you're ever up that way, we can probably get you a contact to see a tour of that facility, because it is a production line making huge airplanes. So the next then would be a product family department. So this is something that's sort of medium variety and medium volume. What this is you can see up in the corner there, there's a picture of this machining area, and you can see there's various different machines. They're not the same. They're not the same machine, so it's not a process department, and it's not like an assembly line, so it's not just one product that's being processed. Actually, a family of products are being processed within this cell. And this is a pretty common way lately to do manufacturing, where we do this sort of cell manufacturing procedure. We're going to look a little bit at how to go through that, and how to really look at developing these product families. But the last section here would be a process department. Again, this is a process department that is a group of workstations containing similar processes. And you can see here that this is a picture of a machine shop, because actually most of the time when we think of this, it's like a machine shop, a job shop. Anything like in building 41, most of those are process planning departments. Those departments are made that way. So we're going to now shift a little bit and look at the product family, particularly in the cell manufacturing. So in cell manufacturing, you have a small group of different machines together to process a group of parts. So in this case, you can see I have machine 1, 4, and 3, and machine 2, 5, and 6, and they're both sort of in a U shape, and they're processing a family of parts. This is a picture of a machine cell, of a manufacturing cell, and often it's also done where there's a flexible worker that can, or multiple workers, that can run the various machines sort of as needed, so they can move around. And that's why it's often in a U shape or a circular shape. Again, this is the other thing about this picture is it is done in Google SketchUp. And I would really encourage you to learn Google SketchUp. It's a free open source program. There's a lot of pre-drawn items. Like, I'm sure all of these items were probably pre-drawn, meaning that there's a library of them that you can download them. They're really good for 3D. You can take tours. You can move things around. I would recommend doing this for your project, learning Google SketchUp. So somebody probably should learn how to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do now, that's sort of a side note, but the next thing we're going to look at is this concept of cell manufacturing, and how do you group products and machines into cells. So what you do is you start with this part and machine matrix, where the part numbers, in this case, they would be more complicated than 1 through 8, but they are listed here as each row, so parts 1, and then across the columns are the machines in which they process. So it might be a lathe and a mill and a drill, etc. But you can see that part 1 is processed on machine 1, machine 3, and machine 4, while part 2 is processed on machine 1 and machine 4. Part 3 is processed on 2, 5, and 6. And you can imagine this probably would be pretty extensive. There'd be many more parts than this, and maybe more machines than this. We start with that particular matrix, and then we're going to move to doing we're going to go through this concept that's called a clustering, direct clustering algorithm. This is in your book. I can't remember the page, but it's in your book. Also, you'll have access to these slides, so you'll be able to work through that. But what we'll end up doing is we're going to take this parts machine matrix, manipulate it using the direct clustering algorithm. I know I went through that quickly, but you can read it yourself. And it'll come up with this sort of grouping. And from this grouping, you can see that machines 2, 5, and 6 are going to process parts 3, 4, 6, and 8. So all of these are processed in one cell. And machines 1, 3, and 4 are processing parts 1, 2, 5, and 7. So that's what that is. And that's how you get to that direct clustering algorithm that way. And then you can go ahead and make the layout associated with that. Now, you need to decide whether you're going to be using a cell manufacturing when you're defining the departments. Because if you want to do it that way, then the departments are going to be defined differently than if you put all of these in one cell, one space, or you maybe put machine 1 and 5 together because they're similar machines. So looking at this will help you define departments. This is the direct clustering algorithm. I think I'd like you just to review this on your own, and you can see I'm going to go through each of these each of the steps of the direct clustering algorithm. I'm not going to talk through it because we'll work on it in class, and you will also have a short one to do as homework. So you start with this, and then the next thing you do is you manipulate it by doing ordering and totaling, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and that ends up to be those particular cells, and this is how they will be processed. You can probably follow it yourself, and in addition, you will have the slides, and so you'll be able to figure out what it is I did for the homework problem. So that finishes today's, not today's, this